Go for it.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Ibrahim, and so my presentation is going to have a lot of similar things with uh, Professor Akhtas, who just presented, because I did my research under him last summer with Iraj, who's not here, and we were like focusing on finding experts in social networks based on topics, and we specifically use like Stack Overflow because uh, it was a place where it's like a pretty large social network, and yeah. Uh, okay, so actual problem was identifying experts, and identifying experts is important because uh, it would help you get accurate talent recruitment and enhance content accuracy on platforms. Although current expert detection methods are successful in identifying knowledgeable users and enhancing the overall quality of forum contributions, they face significant limitations. Two main problems in how like platforms identify experts within them, like social platforms, like imagine Reddit, for example, or like something, or Quora, very specific user behavioral statistics that are not generalizable. So like some models would only fit certain websites and forum level reputation scores. And it doesn't, this one, for example, would give you like, let's say the topic is computer science. It would give you an expert just specifically on computer science and like not on Python, which might be what you're looking for. So in our project, we look to find experts on specific tags. Yeah. Okay. And the example with the cook was that, let's say, and you're trying to find the best cook or like a restaurant in an area, you can't just, one of the criteria cannot be like, do they have an oven that could cook up to this Fahrenheit? Because that's just too specific, and it would just only work for like a certain restaurant. And the same thing goes for social networks, basically. Some real world examples include posting frequency, response times, and user engagement metrics. Uh, and the important thing to remember here is that versatility is key usually. And yeah. Okay, the way we did it was we first represent crowdsourcing forms in a graph and hypergraph structure. Iraj did hypergraph, so I'm mainly going to talk about graph. And it's the thing that looks like on the bottom right, where the nodes would represent users and the edges in between them would represent if they like post, if they wrote and interact on the same post. Uh, this usually captures complex relationships in the forum. And we also applied like vectors to these like individual users, which represented their expertise score based on like how many uploads they got. So, and this was called like a sheaf data structure. It basically associates data spaces to the vertices and edges of the graph, along with additional information that shows how the data in different parts of the graph should be related. In very intuitive terms, it's like assigning a skill set vector to each user, depending on how many thumbs ups they got in that form. For example, like a sheaf data structure on a stack exchange graph would look like this, like in simpler terms. So there are three users involved in these posts. Vector space over U1 and U3 are two-dimensional since the users involved the different tags, since these users involved in the different tags respectively. So like user one in the gray and user three in the orange, they only like in this forum post about Python and big data, and U3 respectively like machine learning and Python. But U2 is assigned a three-dimensional vector since the vector space, since it like basically wrote under three in a question where the question had three tags. The vectors on arrows represent linear transformations between users where the values come from the total number of uploads that each user gets for each tag. For the Sheaf Laplacian, it's important to remember that it only inputs the network structure and the number of likes, dislikes a user gets for each question. As a result, our model provides a flexible and generalizable framework to study tag-based experts, addressing the limitations of current expert detection models. Yeah. And actually, if I go back, for like the vector spaces, we call them, for like basically vector spaces associated with each vertex, they represent the opinion space of that vertex. Like I mentioned before, mathematically, this opinion space is a real vector space with a basis comprising the collection of topics. The base elements incorporate users' social, demographic, and cultural dynamics. Well, this usually goes for like what Professor Akdas was presenting about relating to like opinion dynamics and like if you're in social networks, if in like more social media type social networks. So like social, demographic, and cultural dynamics don't really apply here. Yeah. Okay. So to model information diffusion within network that takes question tags into consideration, we develop like the Sheaf Laplacian, which captures the interconnectedness and interactions among the individuals in a network. Sheaf Laplacian only inputs the network structure and the number of likes, dislikes a user gets for each question. So for like a given graph, there's like the edges. Edges are called the one cochains, as it says on like the third bullet point, and the nodes, which are the users, will be called the zero cochains. And you basically combine these in a co-boundary matrix, which has the rows as the individual as the connections as each edge, and each column would correspond to like a specific user tag combination. So let's say I'm user one, a column would be like let's say one of the topics I wrote about is Python. It would be my like vector space sort of. Yeah. So each column in the co-boundary map corresponds to a user's topic performance. The connections in the user's topics are denoted by the rows, where each connection in between two rows are represented by writing the scores of that node, along with the associating row of the co-boundary map. Notice how it has to be specific tags, which are designated as topics in that post. So the one on the left, on your left, would be the co-boundary map. The one on the right is how you get the Laplacian. And you get the Laplacian via getting the transpose of the co-boundary map and multiplying by the co-boundary map. Yeah, for comparison purposes, the centrality measure should be able to allow us to measure the importance of not just the entire user, but one aspect of the user's knowledge. And okay, how you get the centrality is basically we remove each column and row from the Laplacian, or you could just remove a column, I believe, from the co-boundary map before you multiply with the transpose. And it would basically, after some, like after you go through some equation, which is the equation on the left, you get the eigenvalues, the sum of the eigenvalues, which would give you like a centrality score. And on the right, you do the same, but you also do it after you remove a certain column. And if you remove that column, if the centrality score after you remove that column is low, then that means that column was important to the whole network. And if you don't, then, and if it's not important, then it wasn't, I guess. We also use other comparative graph or hypergraph methods, and we use PageRank, which was important because it sort of like for users that answer questions that are not answered a lot, then it gives those users like more points because it has like it has like rounds where it distributes points. But it's not as accurate, we believe, because it includes a directed graph where there's a direction. So like the points are accrued only towards the question answer. So the question askers get no credit. There's also like an SIR model, you know, it has a pretty good structure in terms of implementing like showing connectedness, and it's great in terms of showing connectedness because like there's like an infection and it goes on for like, let's say 50 trials and we see how it spreads, but it's not as good because it's basically it relies too much on structure. Then that's actually true. And when we looked at our results, we saw that we did it with Stack Overflow, and Stack Overflow has like a very specific uh Stack Overflow has like a very specific way where they measure reputation. They call it reputation score, and it's only for them. And so basically, like the other ones did not correlate as well, but the Sheaf Laplacian, if you look at the graph side and the hypergraph side actually for both, it did correlate really well with the specific way that Stack Overflow measured it for them. But the thing about Stack Overflows is that it only works for their website. And the Sheaf Laplacian method, where you like use the nodes as the users and connections as the edges, it's more generalizable. And yeah, thank you.